Most guys have no idea where women actually want to be touched. They follow the same playbook: kiss her neck, squeeze her hips, maybe run a hand down her back, and then wonder why it feels flat, like something's missing. It's not that the moves are wrong, it's that they're expected. And when something's expected, it stops being exciting. Here's what women won't tell you. The spots that turn them on the most aren't the ones you've been told to focus on. They're the ones no one ever thinks to touch. The ones that feel private, personal, and completely surprising. That's what today's video is about. I'm going to show you 15 places women want to be touched. Not just where, but how, in ways that most men completely overlook. These are the touches that make her stop talking mid-sentence. The ones that make her skin remember you long after she's gone. Let's get into it. 1. The inside of her wrist, with nothing but your breath. This one isn't about hands. It's not about holding hands, rubbing hands, or playing with her fingers. This is something different entirely, and way more powerful when done right. The inside of a woman's wrist is one of the most sensitive and nerve-rich areas on her entire body. It's where her pulse lives, the place her heartbeat is easiest to find, and most men overlook it completely. But here's what you do. Next time you're close, maybe you're holding her hand, maybe you're just sitting next to each other, gently turn her palm upward and bring your face close enough that your breath hits the skin of her wrist. Don't kiss it yet. That's too expected. Let your breath land there first. Warm, soft, deliberate. That tiny action, it creates a full body response. Her brain has no idea what's coming next, and that uncertainty is magnetic. She might pull back, not because she doesn't like it, but because she doesn't know how to handle the sudden intimacy. That's the magic of this move. It doesn't feel like a big gesture, but it lingers, like a secret shared without words. Women remember how things feel more than what was said, and the inside of her wrist, warmed by your breath instead of your hands, will feel like something she can't quite explain. That's exactly what you want. 2. The dip between her collarbone and shoulder. Slow circles only. There's a small, soft dip right where her collarbone curves into the top of her shoulder. It's subtle, barely noticeable unless you know where to look. But if you find it, and you know how to touch it, you'll unlock something that feels deeply personal, even if she doesn't fully understand why. This area isn't sexual in the traditional sense. It's not the kind of place you touch when you're trying to escalate. And that's why it works so well, because it isn't what she's expecting. Try this. When she's leaning against you, or when you're lying side by side, run your fingers in slow, deliberate circles right in that dip. Not across the shoulder, not down her back. Just that shallow space where tension tends to live. Keep the pressure feather light, almost absent. You're not massaging. You're not grabbing. You're reminding her you're there, and doing it with the kind of care she rarely experiences from a man. This kind of touch makes her feel safe. It also makes her feel studied, like you're not rushing to get somewhere else. You're interested in the details, not just the outcome. Here's the part that surprises most guys. Women associate this kind of gesture with trust, not lust, and yet, it turns her on, because trust is the thing that unlocks everything else. So take your time with this spot. Touch it like it matters, because to her it does. 3. The backs of her knees, only when she's not expecting it. No one ever thinks to touch the backs of her knees, which is exactly why you should. Now this one's not for the first date or casual banter on the couch. This is a post-build-up move. You've already made her feel safe. There's already been laughter, leaning in, maybe her hands resting on your thigh while she talks. That's your green light. Next time she's sitting cross-legged or stretching her legs out, reach under gently and touch, not tickle, the soft crease at the back of her knee. Your fingers shouldn't grab or squeeze. They should explore like you've discovered something no one else has noticed. The skin there is shockingly sensitive, not in a sexual way, in a nervous system way. It's wired for response. She'll likely flinch and then smile. She might even say, "That's such a weird spot to touch." Don't explain yourself. Just smile back and move on. The mystery is part of what makes it work. You're showing her you're not going for the obvious. You're reading her, not just repeating a routine. That's what makes the moment memorable. You're touching places that feel private, not because they're sexual, but because no one else thinks to. And that's what makes her skin remember you long after you're gone. 4. The rim of her ear, not the lobe, the upper cartilage. Every guy goes for the earlobe, but the lobe is expected, and by now, most women are numb to it. If you really want to catch her off guard, in the best way, move higher. Touch the upper rim of her ear, the cartilage, the part that never gets attention. This move works best when you're already close. Maybe you're whispering something. Maybe your faces are inches apart and there's a beat of silence. Reach up with the back of your fingers and lightly trace the curve of that rim. Just once. Then let your hand fall away. Don't linger. Don't overplay it. This isn't about building to something. It's about creating a spark that interrupts the moment in the most intimate way. Why does this work? Because it feels like an accident, like your fingers moved without thinking. That kind of unconscious intimacy, it's magnetic to women. It's not the kind of touch that says, I want to sleep with you. It's the kind that says, I'm already inside your world, and I know how to move through it. That part of her ear holds nerve endings that shoot subtle signals across her scalp, down her neck, and straight into memory. And the best part? No one else is doing this. So when you do, it feels like a discovery she didn't know she was waiting for. 5. The lower back triangle, where her spine ends and hips begin. There's a spot just above the top of her jeans, where her spine forks off into the soft curve of her hips. Some call it the sacral triangle. You don't need the name. You just need to know it's highly sensitive, often neglected, and a place that can make her exhale without even realizing it. The key here is casual contact. Not firm, not pushing. You're not guiding her anywhere. You're not taking control. You're simply making her feel like your hand belongs there. Next time you're walking behind her, or leaning over to whisper something, let your hand rest briefly in that triangle, not in a grabbing way, just a low, steady presence, fingers splayed, thumb on one side of her spine, pinky on the other. If she shifts toward you even slightly, she feels it. If she shivers or lets out a breath, she's fully aware of how close that touch is to something more, but without crossing any line. This is one of those places that women rarely get touched unless it's during sex. But when you touch it outside that context, it becomes far more intimate. It says, I know your body without needing to claim it. That kind of awareness is rare, and rare is unforgettable. 6. The notch at the base of her throat, gently, during conversation. There's a hollow space between a woman's collarbones, a small dip just below the neck. It's one of the most elegant, underappreciated spots on her body, and when you touch it at the right moment, it sends a message louder than anything you could say. This move doesn't belong in a sexual moment. It belongs in the build-up, when she's telling a story, or when you're both laughing, or when the conversation drifts into something vulnerable. Reach up with 2 fingers, not your whole hand, and touch that spot as if to emphasize something she said. Then leave your fingers there for a second longer than necessary. This touch lands emotionally before it ever becomes physical. It signals tenderness, attention, and a strange kind of reverence. You're not groping, you're appreciating, and she feels that. Most women don't even realize how sensitive that area is until someone touches it in this way. It's not erotic. It's not even obvious. And that's why it works. 7. The webbing between her fingers, but only one hand, and only when alone. Not palm, not fingers. The webbing, that soft, slightly ticklish space between her fingers that barely gets noticed by anyone, including herself. This move isn't casual. It's intimate, personal, and reserved for one-on-one moments. You're sitting across from her. Maybe your fingers are already interlaced. Gently pull your thumb along the inside webbing of her index and middle fingers. Do it slowly. Do it like you're reading her hand, not holding it. She won't know how to respond. That's the goal. Touching the webbing is like speaking a different language, one that skips her brain and goes straight to her nervous system. It makes her feel focused on, as if you're playing a note no one else knows how to hit. When she thinks back to the night, she won't remember the dinner or the jokes. She'll remember that moment, your thumb in that small, tender space between her fingers, and the way it made her feel like something had just shifted between you. 8. The tender skin just under her jawline, when you're face to face. Most guys will go for the cheek, or the chin, or try to tilt her face for a kiss. And that's fine. It's just not memorable. But the space underneath her jawline, that's where tension and emotion sit, right under the surface. There's a pocket of skin there, soft, tight, and incredibly responsive, that carries a surprising amount of emotional weight. It's where her voice originates, where she swallows, where she holds back what she's not ready to say yet. So when you touch her there, gently, deliberately, it feels like you're reaching deeper than skin. Here's how you do it right. You're talking. You've already locked eyes. Maybe her voice drops a little, maybe yours does too. As the moment builds, raise your hand slowly and let your fingertips rest under her jaw, thumb along the edge. Don't move. Just be there. She won't flinch. She'll freeze, in the best way, because that spot isn't used to being touched. It feels oddly intimate without being sexual, and it draws her awareness fully into that single point of contact. This is where presence matters more than pressure. Don't stroke. Don't trace. Just hold her there, lightly, like you're grounding her. She'll feel it for hours, not because you made a move, but because you made her feel completely seen in a way that bypassed the usual games. 9. The arch of her foot, without making it feel like a massage. You hear foot, and you think massage. That's where most guys go wrong. A massage feels like a service. What you want here is a signal, not a chore. The arch of her foot is delicate, nerve-dense, and shockingly overlooked in everyday intimacy. And it's not about pressure or technique. It's about the intention behind the touch. When she's lounging, barefoot, or has just kicked her shoes off, that's your opening. Reach for her foot, not aggressively, but like you're drawn to it. Slide your fingertips lightly along the inner arch, from heel to ball, with just enough contact to raise a goosebump. Pause halfway. Let your thumb rest in the curve, then let go. You're not working out tension. You're building it. Why does this matter? Because when you touch her like that, you're not asking for anything, and she feels it. She gets to stay relaxed, stay in control, but still feel that current of awareness between you. This kind of touch is advanced. It's for when she's already feeling close, already comfortable, and it tells her without words that you notice details, that you're not rushing, that you can make her feel something without needing to escalate, which, ironically, is what makes her want you even more. 10. The underside of her forearm, especially in low light. The inside of the forearm is where softness lives, not just physically, but emotionally. It's where her skin thins, where the pulse is closest, and where intimacy tends to land the loudest. This isn't a place people touch casually, which is why, when you do, and when you do it right, it stops everything. You're sitting beside her. Maybe it's late. The mood is quiet. You reach over and place your hand, palm up, beneath her forearm, letting her rest her arm in yours. Then, with your other hand, you lightly brush the underside, from elbow to wrist, like you're testing the texture of silk. This move is disarming. It's slow, gentle, and because it's not expected, it slips under her radar in the most intimate way. She might look down at your hands. She might not say anything at all. But inside, she's lit up. Because this kind of touch speaks to her in a way most physical gestures don't. It says, I'm paying attention to the places no one else sees. She'll associate that spot with you now. Not just your touch, but your pace, your presence, your restraint. And restraint, for a woman who's used to being rushed, is incredibly attractive. 11. The area just above her knee, when you're sitting side by side. Touching a woman's leg can go wrong very quickly, because guys always rush to the thigh. The move is obvious, the signal is loud, and the intention is rarely subtle. That's why it doesn't work. But there's a space just above her knee, where the muscle softens and the touch doesn't scream anything. It just lands. And that's where your focus should be. You're sitting next to her, maybe at a bar, on a bench, or a couch. Let your hand fall naturally beside hers. Then, when you shift, let your fingers graze that space just above the knee, as if you're adjusting, not grabbing. If you're already getting along and she's laughing, engaged, or leaning toward you, you'll feel the shift in her body the second your hand makes contact. Her breathing might pause, her knee might press slightly toward you, and you'll know, this tiny move just changed everything. What matters here is the ease of the gesture. It shouldn't feel planned. It should feel like gravity, like your hand naturally landed there because that's where it was meant to go. No pressure, no stroking, just warmth, weight, and a moment of closeness so subtle it has to be intentional. And that's what she'll feel. Your intentionality without your agenda, which, in her mind, is 10 times more seductive. 12. The curve of her waist. Not her hips, but where her waist starts to turn. Everyone grabs the hips. It's the go-to move. Safe, direct, predictable, which makes it forgettable. But if you go just a few inches higher, to the place where her waist begins to narrow, that gentle inward slope just above her hips, you're in a completely different zone. One that feels personal, not performative. This is the part of her body that responds to subtlety. So don't grab. Don't wrap your arm around her like you're claiming something. Instead, touch it like you're not even aware you're doing it. Maybe you're standing behind her, brushing past in the kitchen. Maybe you're guiding her through a door or pulling her closer while watching something. Let your palm settle there, the soft curve, right above the waistband, for half a second longer than necessary. Then move. That moment of contact sends a ripple through her. Not because it was bold, but because it was precise. It says, I know exactly where you begin. I know how to navigate you without needing to control you. It's a place that doesn't get enough attention, which is why, when you touch it, it stays with her. And not just in her body, but in her thoughts. 13. The space behind her shoulder blade, when you're helping her into a jacket. Here's a move so casual she won't even register it until later, and yet it'll stay with her longer than most kisses. When you help her into her coat or jacket, a gesture that already signals care and awareness, there's a moment when her arm is lifted and her back is exposed for just a second. That's your window. As you guide the sleeve over her shoulder, let your fingertips brush the area just behind her shoulder blade. Just once, just long enough to make contact. No lingering, No pressure. Just an intentional pause. This is one of the most undertouched spots on the body, especially for women. And when it's touched in passing, with that kind of quiet attentiveness, it creates a flash of emotional intimacy she doesn't expect. She might turn and smile. She might not notice at all, in the moment. But later, she'll remember it, because it wasn't just helpful. It was tuned in. And women respond to men who notice the in-between moments, the ones that aren't part of a routine. This touch doesn't say, I want you. It says, I'm present with you. And that's a much harder message to fake. 14. The edge of her scalp, where hair meets skin, during quiet moments. There's a place just above her neck, where her hair begins to thin out and the scalp becomes more sensitive. It's not the top of her head. It's not her neck. It's that transitional space where sensation hits differently. Most people only touch a woman's hair in two ways, running fingers through it or pulling it back. Both are fine, but they're expected. This move isn't. You're lying together. Maybe she's resting on your chest. Maybe you're sitting side by side in silence. Reach your hand up and gently trace the edge of her scalp, where the hairline meets skin, just behind her ear or at the nape. Do it slowly, with your nails, not your fingertips. Not scratching, tracing. This kind of touch triggers something primal. It calms the nervous system while lighting up the senses. It makes her melt without knowing why. It doesn't say, I want to sleep with you. It says, I'm attuned to you in stillness. And in a world full of noise, that's rare. 15. The spot just behind her ankle. A brush, not a grip. Last one. And it's maybe the most overlooked of all. There's a soft, slightly curved area just behind her ankle bone, where tendons pass under the skin and movement begins. It's never touched. Not during sex. Not during flirting. Not during hugs. Which makes it the perfect final move. You're both barefoot. Maybe she's standing at the counter. Maybe she's curled up on the bed. Reach down, casually, not ceremonially, and brush the back of her ankle with the back of your fingers. Let it be feather light. Let it disappear as soon as it happens. It will shock her. Not because it's erotic, but because no one thinks to touch her there. It's a place of pure surprise. It doesn't carry any weight, and yet it instantly shifts her awareness to her body, and to you. It's the kind of move that says, if I can make you feel this much from one light touch in a forgotten place, imagine what I can do when it matters.